We like to bring out our special guests on a Tuesday, and tonight is no different. So we welcome back to the airwaves plant-based health coach and expert speaker Vanessa Sturman. She has a huge internet presence if you want to get any information about going plant-based. And when I say going plant-based, we used to call it vegan, didn't we? But, veganism has a huge amount of other political attachments, not wearing leather, etc. Not necessarily for everyone, but for a lot of people. So eating plant-based is another way of describing veganism, I think. And for plant-based food, plant-based diets, I guess, the aim is for your own personal health. It's less about politics. It's less about animals. It's more about putting into your body what is good for it. That's according to the experts on it. I know there are people listening that might differ, and I'm a big steak fan. So I like to offer all alternative views on the show, whether I partake in them or not. But Vanessa is a true shining example of how eating plant-based can potentially be incredible. So let's bring her back for a chat tonight about menopause, about how putting in the absolute very best to our bodies can potentially help us deal with what biology and life throws at us, and giving us, I guess, kind of the best toolbox in which to deal with some of the things that nature deals. So I speak to Vanessa every week and I say, welcome back to the show, Vanessa. How are you?
I am very good, thank you, and all the best to be speaking with you.
Oh, that is so nice. And you know what? I know you're always good because I say this every time. You know how to look after yourself. But that's despite the weather. I mean, we're all a bit bummed out about August so far.
It's not the August we were hoping for.
No.
But at least it's not freezing cold, so we can pretend a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. That's a really, really optimistic take on things. It's not freezing cold. Anyway, we won't dwell on that now. We're talking about our diets and our health tonight. And am I right in thinking, am I right in announcing that you are someone who advocates, obviously, a plant-based diet, but for our general health?
Yes, that's right. And I'm very pro not saying, OK, it's either plant-based or not. It's how can we all build in more plant foods, more whole foods, and get a great result and impact. It doesn't have to be this, I either do it or I don't. When we build in more healthy foods, more healthy habits, we can start improving our health and our energy. And it's something all of us can do, because we all know we need to be eating more whole foods, less processed foods, and more plants.
Excellent. And tonight we're talking specifically about menopause. And so what I'm interested in is are we going to talk about how people who choose a plant-based diet can make it work for them whilst going through the menopause, or how a plant-based diet can actually help women going through the menopause?
Yeah, so more the latter, but I would love to talk about how anyone, even if they don't want to go fully plant-based, can get huge benefits in terms of the menopause by eating more of these kinds of foods. And, I would love to give a bit of background on why everyone wants to get more of these sorts of foods into what they're eating if you're going through menopause, not just to get rid of symptoms and survive, but to thrive and to build in healthy habits that help you after menopause as well. So you're thinking about building in these habits and more of these healthy foods for the rest of your life.
Right. OK, so it's about generally looking after our bodies as we age.
It is about that. And there's so many things we can do specifically if you're going through menopause that can help change your experience of the symptoms, can give you more energy, can stop or help to alleviate some of the issues you might be having with brain fog or mood or anything like that, or potentially help with some of the weight gain that might come, and things that make it more comfortable. I don't want to say the word enjoyable just in case, because it's going to be different for everyone, but it should be about thriving, and it should be giving our body fantastic nourishment and not just focusing on symptoms.
Okay, and I know there's going to be a lot of women. Trust me, Vanessa, I'm older than you, and I know there are going to be a lot of women going, what do you know? And also, until you're there, how can we possibly know that just giving ourselves the right nutrition, in inverted commas, can actually counteract something that almost nature never really intended for us to go through? I mean, we're living longer, we're living through the menopause in a way that we're not necessarily evolved to do. So we've got to deal with it. And sometimes it's just absolutely awful.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? There's some terrible symptoms people are experiencing, and it's not helped by. I mean, obviously now we've got much better understanding, and that's why there's this huge awareness around it. Because previously, people would just have to deal with it. You know, workplaces wouldn't care if you were going through it. You wouldn't even be able to say, "Actually, I need a bit of a break." But we have a bit more of this in place. There's still a long way to go, obviously, which is making it easier. But of course, this is not saying if you change these things, you're not going to feel it. You're not going to have, a bad time at all. It's also about being kind to yourself, giving yourself the right breaks and acknowledging what you're going through as well. But nutrition can certainly help a lot. And actually, in countries where they eat more foods that have got something called phytoestrogens in, such as soy, there's less experience of some of the symptoms of menopause, like hot flashes, for example. So there's a lot of evidence on that helps women with their symptoms if they build in certain foods.
So, in other words, what we've got to go through is what we've got to go through. And the best that we can do ourselves is using nature to our advantage.
Yes, that's right. I mean, food is just one element, and there are a lot of experts out there that help with other elements that are going to help with menopause. But food is a brilliant place to start because it changes your experience of um, energy levels, your gut, etc., regardless of what you're going through. So, if you're having any of these issues in menopause, it's really, really important that you look at your nutrition. Like I said, it's not going to be the only thing, it's not going to change everything, but it's really important because it also might prompt you to build in habits you haven't had in the rest of your life that will actually help your longevity for the future.
Okay, we've written that down. That is Vanessa Sturman, who is a plant-based health coach and expert speaker. And How to Go Plant-Based is her Facebook page, if you want to go and look on there. If it's something that maybe is affecting you in your life, the menopause, or someone you know, you don't have to be going through it yourself. You might be heading towards it. You might be heading out of it. It might be your mum or your child or your neighbour or your partner. Or your sibling. It doesn't really matter who you are. It affects so many people, a huge percentage of our society. And if plant-based eating is something that you've considered as a potential option to make life easier, you can look Vanessa up online and maybe get some tips that way. But there is more to come from Vanessa before 7. But I do know that we're going back to our chat with the lovely Vanessa Sturman, who is a plant-based health coach and expert speaker. Her Facebook page, How to Go Plant-Based, is a great start if you're thinking of eliminating animal products from your diet. It's not veganism. There's no political involvement. It's not about not eating animals. It's about just putting plants in. And tonight we're talking about menopause and how it can really help the symptoms of menopause, which can be almost disabling. And that is a fact. It can really knock people sideways. I say people, I mean women of a certain age. And everybody goes through it, unless there's obviously extenuating circumstances. And of course, people around you will be going through it, whether it's affecting you directly or indirectly. It doesn't matter. We're all exposed to menopause. Let's say it. So how can what we eat and what we put into our bodies potentially help?
Yeah, so there's a few different things you can do that come together really nicely. So just first of all, let's remember that a lot of hormones are made in our gut. So if we can keep good gut health, it's going to help our experience of our hormones. So, a first thing with looking after our gut, and I say this all the time, is making sure you're feeding your gut fiber, because that's what our good gut bacteria eat. So to have a thriving population of our good gut bacteria, we want to be feeding it fiber. And we need a variety of that fiber to have a nice diversity of our good gut bacteria. So the first thing is, let's just build in more fiber, more plants. This doesn't matter what diet you've got. chuck more veggies onto that plate, more fruit onto the breakfast, different kinds of nuts, different kinds of grains, more beans. These are all going to add more fiber to your diet. That is also going to keep you more full. So it's not just going to help your gut health, which helps your hormones. It's going to keep you more full. It's going to help stop craving. So all of those things are going to help. So we want to really, really look after the gut. That also means make sure you're drinking enough water, for example. Make sure you're chewing your food properly. These are all brilliant things that we can do that really help our gut. So that's one of the first things. And to get more variety in, now, this doesn't have to be difficult. We don't have to go and look up 1,000 different recipes online. This could be as simple as, I usually have oranges and apples for my breakfast, or maybe I'm not having any fruit at all and we need to improve that. But I'm going to make sure I get some frozen blueberries, which aren't very expensive if we get frozen berries from the supermarket. I'm going to have some of those and a banana some days. And then I'm going to switch it up with something else. Or
yeah, but you know, when you're in when you're in the menopause, I don't want blueberries. I certainly don't want apples and oranges. I want a frothy coffee and buttery toast.
Lovely. So go for it with your frothy coffee. Still do that. Maybe with your toast, you could have some lovely sourdough bread with some nut butter and a banana chopped up on top, and maybe some, extra little bits of nuts on top, So it doesn't have to be, all fruit and veg at all. In fact, that's not balanced. We need to have all this other stuff, but we can adapt little things. If you're normally just having, like I said, a buttery toast, have some fruit and some nut butter with it.
Do you know what? I am hearing you, because for me, it's about substitutes for the things that we crave that aren't necessarily good for us. And like my buttery toast and my milky coffee, there are ways around it which satisfy you. And I think that, to me, is a really important thing.
Yes, you're so right. And the biggest part of this is when I see a lot of people running off when they have a health problem, or maybe they've put on weight, and the panic can drive people to restriction, bland food. I'm going to not eat as much, and doing things that they don't enjoy, that first may not be very healthy, second that they don't enjoy. So that has got to be a part of it. What do I really love? So even, for example, if you like making yourself a Thai curry at home and you really want some spring rolls, go and buy some from the supermarket and cook them and have some lovely unhealthy spring rolls with it. Who cares? It's got to be delicious and fun. But if you're building in healthy things onto that plate, lots of veggies, lots of beans, good grains, maybe some tofu, things with those phytoestrogens in that are going to help the symptoms, have what you want with it. Have a lovely dessert, but you might want to just make sure that dessert is after a proper meal. Make sure your blood sugars are stable, being a bit sensible about it, but still having the things that we love.
Well said, well said. It's about, managing your expectations and your desires, I guess.
It really, really is. It's meant, we're meant to enjoy our lives. And, often we're forced down these paths and think, wow, this isn't particularly enjoyable. And all that happens is it becomes unsustainable and we don't stick to it anyway.
Yes, I quite agree, Vanessa. Thank you very much indeed for your time and expertise and enthusiasm tonight. Delicious.